Today we are going to discuss the paper Data Distillation Towards Omni-Supervised Learning by Elijah Radosavovich, Piotr Dollar, Ross Gershik, Georgia, Kaiming Hay by Facebook AI Research. I'm sorry to authors if anyone is listening, if I pronounce your name wrong. So, what coming to the basic idea, what is the difference between the normal supervised learning and omni supervised learning? It is that they try to they explain it here. Omni supervised learning, a special regime of self semi supervised learning in which learner exploits all labeled data plus internet scale resource of unlabeled data. In the traditional self supervised learning, what we usually do, we try to take a very small subset of the existing dataset and then we use that to understand how well the model can train on its own without giving the full labels. Whereas omni supervised learning, so since we are not using the complete resources that are available, the traditional self-supervised learning is upper bounded by the performance of existing labeled datasets or supervised methods, in the sense that supervised methods are always slightly better than the self-supervised methods or the semi-supervised methods. But in the omni supervised learning, they say that it is lower bounded by the performance of the existing labeled datasets. So this is guaranteed, or they show that for two particular cases in this paper, which we'll discuss later, that they surpass the state of the art of fully supervised method, which is not a common thing for semi supervised or self supervised training methods. So in this paper we'll see how they go to do this. To exploit omni supervised learning, we propose data distillation, a method that ensembles predictions from multiple transformations of unlabeled data. So from this sentence, using a single model to automatically generate new training annotations. So from this, what we can understand or expect from this paper is, instead of the traditional way which they explain in figure 1, where an image is sent into three models and an ensemble of their predictions give a prediction, and that unsupervised training image uses this prediction label, and on this combined dataset a new student model is trained. So this method or this approach is called model distillation, which has been experimented or shown or proposed in the first attempt in the citation number 18, which I think of Jeffrey Hinton, Oriol Vinyals, and Distilling the Knowledge in Neural Network. That's the paper. So in this paper they show that this image, so they get these ensemble predictions and then they use these this combined dataset to train a new student model, which improves which is used to do this. So what is the problem with this is, you have to train three models. As you know that the longest step in any process is the actual training of the model and not the inference usually, except for a few methods where, even for example in Bayesian models, where inference step also takes a good amount of time, but it is still significantly lesser than the training time that you need for the model to reach convergence or reach a proper local minima. So instead, to avoid training multiple models, what they do is, as you can see here, that they take multiple transformations of the data and use a single model. So the number of models that you have to train, the teacher models that you have to train, is only one, and you have multiple transforms of the same image, and then an ensemble of these models, like these data points, is taken, and that is selected as the new training corpus that is added to the new training corpus. So the usual way of doing, so it is different than the usual way of doing. As you can say that how much there is a gap in the back, the difference is that here you have to, the time needed to use the model distillation process is 3 times the normal teacher training method plus 1 times the inference step, but here it reduces to 1 times the training time plus 3 times the inference step. As we discussed that time for inference is usually much less than the time for training, so this is at least it is multiple times faster to do data distillation method. So coming back to the abstract, we argue that visual recognition models have recently become accurate enough that it is now possible to apply classic ideas about self-training to challenge real-world training data. So further in the paper they show that we'll discuss shortly, that using a better model A or the teacher model would give higher quality data set, and that directly implies that the student model actually improves in performance. We'll discuss about that. I feel that it is an intuitive conclusion that we can actually make before even understanding the entire one. Our experimental results show that in cases of human key point detection and general object detection, state-of-the-art models trained with data distillation surpass the performance of labeled data from COCO dataset alone. So as we discussed that, so like they have mentioned or claimed that omni-supervised learning is better than the supervised approaches, in the sense that they use more they use higher amount of data and they surpass this. They are restating the same point here. And so before going into the introduction, my usual way of going is seeing through the figures that they have and get an intuitive approach of what might happen. So in this figure 2, they are showing ensembling of key point prediction from multiple data transformation. So this is an example in which they show 3 transforms of the same image and then taking an ensemble of it. The paper discusses how to do an ensemble too in a further section, so we'll discuss about that later. And so as you can see here, these are the random examples on static 1M using ResNet 50 teacher. So though as expected there are mistakes like inverted key points, that is fine. They are just pointing out these are just samples of what the model is giving, and then they showed a data point. They showed a data point where the model is failing to. I think that's a good way to show that where it can go or where it can go wrong. So figure 4 is a very good image in my opinion, in the sense that they show the difference between data distillation approach and the fully supervised models predictions. As you can see that, mm, is I think this is clear enough that there's an elephant and there's another elephant and there's a human here. So as you can see that here it predicts that just this point to be a key point, and this whole although this is not a continuous data point, this is still selected as the key point frame, but here this has a better prediction, and similar can be seen here too. This hole is selected as one, as you can see from the, so same color implies same object, but you can see that this is much different and it can identify people or this pitcher or catcher in the baseball game. I think this is a catcher. They are better predicted than this. So these are examples where they show that how data distillation approach performs better than the fully supervised method. And then we'll see the results now. So I'm sorry, I said results. So we'll see figure 5, in which they show data distillation applied to. So in this graph they are showing the fraction of unlabeled images used. UN120 is a data set of unlabeled images. They show that from the graph it is clear that if we use higher number of unlabeled images, then there's an increase in the model performance. So that's a good way to, so this is a clear indication that higher the unlabeled images that we have, data distillation works better. So that's a good thing. So this is a part of ablation experiment, I could guess from now. Impact of teacher quality on data distillation. So like we had discussed, so the teacher AP is the performance of the model A in the data distillation approach that we had discussed earlier. So we can see that from the graph of their experiments, that higher the performance of the teacher model, we have higher the the student model's performance is also increasing almost linearly. So that's a, so if there's a new teacher model which improves which has a better performance, that can be used to do the data distillation and get better results in the student model as well. And okay, and they are showing a similar one for object detection as well. This task is key point detection and this is object detection. And then that's the conclusion. So I like to read papers in a zigzag way, so I'll do this video in the similar way too. In the conclusion, the conclusions that they came up in after these experiments is, we show that it is possible to surpass large scale supervised learning with omni-supervised learning, that is using all available supervised data together with large amounts of unlabeled data. At this conclusion, I think they came to this conclusion from one of the graphs where we saw that the data distillation methods are doing better than the fully supervised. We achieve this by applying data distillation to the problems of COCO object and key point detection. We hope our work will attract more blah blah blah. So I think okay, now coming back to the main idea or main problem. So in this paper, I think so So the traditional model distillation approach, like we had already discussed, uh, uses like it needs three uh, three models to be trained, and then an ensemble of those is used for an ensemble of those three separate models. Predictions are taken, and that is added back to the original training dataset, and from there the student model is retrained. Yeah, they describe this process detailed in the section 3. We propose data distillation, a general method for omni-supervised learning that distills knowledge from unlabeled data without requirement of training a large set of models. We've seen that from this approach that they like model distillation uses three models, whereas data distillation only uses one model. But the difference between these three predictions is that they use multiple transforms of this particular image in the unlabeled dataset, and these three transforms are fed into the model in the inference step, and the predictions are taken. So in a way, model A is learning how to be transform agnostic, in the sense that how to learn. Underlying so although it is fed the directly fed data is from the three transforms, during this ensemble step, we force or we want to make the model learn the content in the image and not the specific transforms. So that's the fundamental idea of this approach. Data distillation involves 4 steps. 1, training a model on manually labeled data, just as normal supervised learning. 2, applying the trained model to multiple transforms of unlabeled data. 3, converting the predictions on the unlabeled data into labels by ensembling multiple predictions. 4, retraining the model on the union of manually labeled data and automatically labeled data. So the best part, as you can see, that in this approach, the step 1, where training a model on manually labeled data, just as in normal supervised learning, and step 4, retraining the model on the union of manual labeled data and automatically labeled data, these two steps have the exact, like, you just have to repeat the same experiment again over a bigger data set. So this is symmetric. The key process, so since the step 1, training a model on labeled data, is just like normal supervised learning, that is not the core of data distillation approach. Step 2 and step 3 are, in step 2, applying the trained model to multiple transformations of unlabeled data. That's the second step. So the fancy name that they came up with for this is multi-transform inference. So let's discuss that's the second step. So first step is training the model on the existing parallel data, and second step, multi-transform inference. A common strategy for boosting accuracy of visual recognition model is to apply the same model to multiple transforms of the input and then aggregate the results. So this is you can consider this to be an inspiration for this work, in which they talk about the traditional approach of the traditional way of I do not call this traditional, but widespread used way of improving the model accuracy is to apply same model to multiple transformations of the input and then aggregate those results. That is the ensembling. Examples of this strategy include multiple crops of image. So they cite papers that have done different types of aggregations or different multiple transforms that they discussed here. Um, Multiple crops or applying a detection model to multiple image scales and merging directions. So for so they change the like there are multiple random crops of images are used in these two papers, and in these 3-4 papers what they've done is they've changed multiple scales, like the screen you are seeing right now is also an image, right? I could change the scale by just zooming in or zooming out. So these are changing the scales or merging the detections. And then we refer to the general application of inference to multi transformations of data point with a single model as multi transform inference. In this statement, they are just stating that the name that they've given. In data distillation, we apply a multi-transform inference to potentially massive set of label data. They are talking about UN120 data set in this paper, which is potentially which is massive. So in this paper, what they've discussed is they applied these multi transforms to the images and then do the inference step. That is step 2, like they have mentioned in the first paragraph. And step 3, converting the predictions on the unlabeled data into labels by ensembling the multi prediction. So from multi transforms, so let's say that we have one image like this. We have one image. We are applying 3 transforms in this image, like in this diagram, which they depict the data distillation process. These 3 transforms are fed into model parallelly, and these 3 transforms give 3 separate predictions for each of them. And step 3 is how to ensemble these 3 predictions to come up with one prediction for all 3 of them. That's the ensembling part. And yeah, so generating labels on data, unlabeled data discusses that. By aggregating the results of multiple transform inference, it is often possible to obtain a single prediction that is superior to any of the model predictions under single transform. Our observation is that aggregated prediction generates new knowledge, and in principle the model can use the information to learn from itself by generating labels. This is self-explanatory till now. Given an unlabeled image and a set of predictions from multiple transformations, there are multiple ways one could automatically generate labels from the image. This just like that's a filler statement. For example, in the case of classification, the image could be labeled with average of class probabilities, like they have done in this particular paper. This strategy, however, has 2 problems. So the way in which they are discussing is that, let's say that this is a classifier model, so we would have softmax probability vector at the end as predictions. So we would have multiple of them. So we would have 3 of them here. Taking an average of those would give similar one. So they further go on to discuss that there are 2 problems with this approach of ensembling. First, it generates soft label, a probability vector, and not a categorical label. So usually when you are given an image, the manually labeled ones have say either it's a cat or it's a dog. But here when you ensemble these, it can have so the average vector of these multiple transforms could be something like 0.99 cat and 0.01 dog. You can see that it is not a one hot vector anymore, the label data. So that's the problem that they discuss, like that they mention here. Generates a soft label that may not be straightforward to use for training the model. So if like when we discuss that step 1 and step 4 are symmetric, it you need the label data and the automatically labeled data to be of similar type. So the automatically labeled data should be a hard label too, not a soft label. Soft label is something which is distributed over all classes, like we had discussed 0.99 for cat and 0.0 for 1 for dog. Given an unlabeled data image and a set of predictions from multiple transform, there are multiple ways one could automatically generate labels on this image. I think I'm repeating myself. The training loss, for example, may be altered such that, so they are discussing the same here, that how they have to change the training loss to accommodate the soft labels. And so that is problem 1. This is problem 1, that you could have soft labels. And problem number 2, for problems with structured output spaces like object detection or human pose estimation, it does not make sense to average output, as care must be taken to respect the structure of output space. So the problem that they are discussing here is a more serious problem than the first one, where changing a training loss may not be such a big deal in the first go, or like might not seem like a huge deal. But the second problem is a bigger problem, and that is a reason why you should not directly take an average of all the multiple transform inference step. What they're talking is, let's say that in the object detection you would have multiple so you would have multiple bounding boxes like this, where a laptop is something like this and a bottle is something like this. Let's say that another transform gives a bottle to be a huger one, like something like this, which comes out, like which covers or surrounds the area around I'll depict this. Okay, so okay, let's consider these dotted lines. So in this dotted line, if you can see that, let's say that in the second transform we would have something like this. Let's say that we have something like this, a different one. So we have a new bounding box, something like this. So you cannot directly take average of the bounding box in green and this bounding box, and you can give a prediction. So average in a structured output does not even make sense sometimes. So you cannot so the average bounding box that you could come up with would be something like, so midpoint of these two would be here, this would be here, this would be like this would be here, and here. So but the problem with that is in the same way, so the bounding boxes are constructed in a way that it is to the original axis that we discussed, so that's not a very good idea to take the direct average or mean. Given these considerations, we simply ensemble or aggregate the predictions from multiple transform inference in a way that generates hard label of the same structure and type of those found in manually annotated data. So they're talking about how to do the ensembling in the way so the necessity of they're deciding or mentioning or they're describing how the ensemble should give the results, which should be a hard label. Generating hard labels typically requires a small amount of task specific logic that addresses the structure of the problem, that is merging multiple sets of boxes by non-maximum suppression. This is one way of merging multiple sets of boxes, the problem like this. So this is one, this is two, how to merge these. The way in which this is done is called non-maximum suppression. Once such labels are generated, they can be used to retrain the model in a simple plug and play fashion as if they were authentic ground truth labels. So they want the automatically annotated data also to be hard labels. Finally, we note that while this procedure requires running inference multiple times, it is actually efficient because it is generally substantially less expensive than training multiple models from scratch, like we discussed. So in the so in the first step we have three times the training time plus one inference time. um, so 3 times plus 1 time is needed here, where we have 3 training times separately done and 1 inference time is not true, so this is 3 times 3 inferences time as well, 3 inference time. But in this what we want, the new one, in the data distillation process we would need 1 training time plus 3 inference time. The only new overhead that we would have is 1 step of so 3 steps of transforms. So in usual or in the general cases, what we would have is the time needed to generate the transforms is much lesser than the training time. So transform time is much less than the train time, thereby significantly reducing the amount of time that you needed for the data distillation approach. That is what they discussed in the section 3. And yeah, in knowledge distillation, the new knowledge generated from unlabeled data. Okay, so just getting back to this point, so how these hard labels are generated is a very task specific thing, which is explained in the section 5 and section 6 of the paper, which we'll discuss further. So in the knowledge distillation, the new knowledge generated from unlabeled data can be used to improve the model. To do this, a student model which can be the same as the original model or different is trained on the union set of original supervised data and the unlabeled data with automatically generated labels. So the new student model is trained on the original data corpus and the data labels that we have generated using the teacher model and multi-transform inference. Training on the union set is straightforward and requires no change to the loss function. However, we do take two factors into consideration. First, we ensure that each training mini batch contains a mixture of manually labeled data and automatically labeled data. This ensures that every mini batch has a certain percentage of ground truth labels, which results in better gradients. Second, since more data is available, the training schedule must be lengthened to take advantage of it. So in they are basically saying that in the first step, while sampling a mini batch to be trained, like during the training process, they ensure that it has a healthy mixture of both manually labeled data and also automatically labeled data, so that the gradient estimates are better. And the second one is that since they have higher or huge amount of data in this percentage, their training schedule must be lengthened in the sense that the number of iterations that the model is trained is higher. So these are this is the core idea of the model. Let's go back to the experiments in which they we discuss the amount of label data. This one graph summarizes this entire paragraph perfectly. Yes, and impact on teacher quality is summarized by this graph, and test time augmentations is a way in that our data test time augmentations in the sense once student model is trained. So what you would do is when you get a new image, you take multiple transforms of that as well, and these three new transforms are fed into the student model, and then three separate predictions are made, and then the same ensembling technique is used to give out a prediction. So they discuss that using, so this is basically doing multi-transform inference that they named in the test time as well. Where is that? Yeah, test time augmentations is basically saying that they did the entire part of using multi-transform inference in the test time as well. So they have tested this approach on two problems. One is in object detection and key point detection. They use standard models for standard used state of the art model architectures for key point detection and object detection, and then they show a significantly higher improvement in the data. Now coming back to the results, so in the label dataset, yes, so let's discuss the results of key point detection first. In key point detection, their main results are small scales and sanity check, large scale data with similar distribution and large scale data with dissimilar distribution. In In the small scale, they have used CO35 label dataset, and then they have produced these results. As you can see that using labeled dataset with unlabeled dataset has given higher improvement than using only the label data. Data distillation performed on CO35 with labels and CO80 without labels versus fully supervised trained on CO115 respectively. The backbone for all these models is ResNet 50. And here they show that the data distillation procedure performed on CO115 with UN 120 without labels comparing to the CO115 part. So CO115 has given the higher. So this result is just a sanity check to show that so CO35 and CO80 are smaller dataset. They show that CO35's performance is increased by using CO80's unlabeled dataset. As you can see that there is almost a 5-point increment here and a 4-point increment here, almost a 6 here. So this shows that this is a sanity check that this works. CO115 is the base teacher model that they have taken, that is the model A in the diagram. So these are the base results. On these, how using the data distillation improvement is what they've shown. So ResNet 150, 65.1, 86.6, 70.9. So this is same as this row. As you can see that using data distillation has given 2-point increase, and this has given continuously, like this has given improvements in the performance regularly. So that's a huge positive. They have shown that changing backbones of the architecture, as you can see that huger or bigger models perform, like they have a better baseline, and even with a better baseline they perform better, and the same happens with this too. So CO115 and UN120 have similar distribution data, but they show that even using dissimilar distribution data, which is S1M180 data, that also has a improvement on the CO115 data as well. So this is a very interesting result, showing that you need not have similar distribution to make full use of data distillation, but also that using dissimilar data distribution you can see performance gains. So these are the results of key point detection. And now we'll go to the problem of object detection. In the object detection, they would like to show they show similar results, where CO35 used, and as you can see CO35, CO80, there's an improvement. So CO115 with ResNet 50 backbone has given this baseline. ResNet 50 with data distillation shows an improvement. 101 shows an improvement over 101, and huger models have better performance overall. The better the backbone of the dataset of the supervised training, better the improvement with data distillation procedure as well. So in this they have shown that this data distillation process is not data distillation approach does not just improve the performance on just key point detection but also object detection. So that's so this shows a very promising direction in which this can be taken. In the conclusion, they came up with, we show that it's possible and we achieve the data distillation to the so object detection and key point detection, and they show that like since this is successful, they are also hopeful that the same translates to other tasks as well. So that is the paper. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, please click like and subscribe. I think the using just my pointer or mouse for now is, like, it might seem a little confusing. I'll try to bring up a better setup with using text and pen the next time. And keep subscribed. Thank you. Keep subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you.